In this module, we'll discuss the remainder of the Bill of Rights, 4 through 10, as well as the 14th Amendment. These cemented the right to equal protection and due process into the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment protects individuals from overzealous law enforcement. They must have probable cause to obtain a search warrant to search or seize your private property. The Fourth through Eighth Amendments essentially limited police powers of the states by guaranteeing fair treatment and legal and judicial proceedings. One small exception to that is the Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment. It says that private property cannot be taken for public use without just compensation. This provision, along with the Due Process Clause's provisions limiting the taking of property, can be viewed as a protection of the obtaining, the use, and the tangible and intangible property for their own benefit. For example, you have the right to trade your knowledge, skills, and labor for money through work or for the use of your property, or trade money or goods for other things of value, such as clothing, housing, education, or food. The greatest recent controversy over economic liberty has been the government's use of the right of eminent domain to take property for redevelopment. And traditionally, the main use of eminent domain was to obtain property for transportation purposes like railroads and highways, which require fairly straight routes to be efficient. But it can often pit low-income people against multinational corporations that have the support of the federal government. And President Eisenhower's Federal Highway Act of 1956 bulldozed entire neighborhoods. It was the first time in American history that people could drive, though, from New York City to San Francisco without hitting a single traffic light. You know the saying about coming from the wrong side of the tracks? With the Federal Highway Act, you could literally find yourself living on the wrong side of the highway. But back to the Fourth through Eighth Amendments. Some of the most controversial Warren Court decisions, the Warren Court is also discussed in Module 2.2, were those affirming the rights of accused criminals dealing with interpretations of the Fourth through Eighth Amendments. Just after Eisenhower left office in 1961 and the Supreme Court case Mapp versus Ohio, the court put into place the exclusionary rule, which says that evidence gathered illegally cannot be used in a court of law against a defendant. The ruling was drawn from the Fourth Amendment, which protects individuals against unlawful search and seizure. In 1984, the court enunciated the good faith exception principle, stating that if a warrant was given in good faith, even if it was based on faulty evidence, the evidence could still be used in a trial. This idea was not to protect against criminal behavior, but against corrupt policing. In Gideon versus Wainwright, 1963, the Warren Court ruled that a person who could not afford an attorney for his or her own defense had a right to an attorney, also known as counsel, to be provided at the public's expense. The next year, in Escobedo versus Illinois, it voided the murder confessions of a man who had been denied the right to see an attorney. But the most controversial criminal rights case is still the 1966 Miranda versus Arizona case, in which a divided Supreme Court ruled that an individual accused of a crime had the rights to remain silent and to have an attorney present during interrogation. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say and do will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Do you understand the rights as I have just read them to you? With these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to me? I'm sure you are all very well behaved, but should you be arrested, make sure your Miranda rights are read to you. Further, you cannot be imprisoned without a trial. You are entitled to receive a trial by jury in a criminal case. The protection of a citizen from imprisonment without a trial is called due process, one of your rights outlined in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment also protects individuals against double jeopardy, a process that subjects a suspect to prosecution twice for the same criminal act. No one who has been acquitted, which means found not guilty of the act, of a crime like that can be prosecuted again for that crime. But stay out of trouble and study hard. And if you do get into trouble again, the Sixth Amendment outlines your rights in a criminal trial, including the right to witnesses, and the Seventh Amendment outlines your rights in a civil trial, such as disagreements between an individual and a business. And the Eighth Amendment promises that excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. While the 4th through 8th provided what amounted to equal protection of the laws for all Americans, this was not explicitly guaranteed until the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. It stated that no state could deny citizens of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny any citizens in its jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. Court cases that affirm these rights, such as Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, are discussed in Module 2.2, the development of civil rights and civil liberties. And you see that due process is mentioned in both the 5th and 14th Amendments. But to finish up with the Bill of Rights, the 9th and 10th Amendments are discussed thoroughly in Module 5.1 on federalism, but very briefly. The 9th Amendment states, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Today we take for granted certain rights that are not enumerated in the Constitution, such as the right to seek opportunities for employment, opportunities for education, the right to have children, the right to raise a family. But in China, for example, the state had a one-child policy in place between 1979 and 2015. At the time of this filming, the Chinese government is considering a baby bonus to encourage couples to have a second child, a reversal of the earlier policy. The 10th Amendment states that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. This amendment does not limit the power of the federal government in any meaningful way. It simply restates what is made obvious elsewhere in the Constitution. The federal government has both enumerated and implied powers, but where the federal government does not or chooses not to exercise powers, the state may do so. Be sure to continue reading in your textbook and look over this video and continue answering the questions provided.